In the year 1993, DC Comics released their 75th Superman comic, announcing well in advance that the title hero, the most iconic and versatile of characters in their roster, was going to be killed off. His death was to be at the hands of an, at the time, brand new villain named Doomsday. The hype surrounding this event resulted in this particular story arc of Superman becoming the single most successful graphic novel of all time. Even though Doomsday is credited as having killed Superman, if one takes a step back and truly examines the events leading up to Superman's death, it becomes apparent that the blame could also be laid elsewhere. So, without further ado, I present to you this pseudo-documentary entitled, Who Killed Superman? You Did. By 1993, sales of Superman comics had dropped the means of getting our attention. By 1993, sales of Superman comics had dropped drastically from the massive success enjoyed by DC during the golden and silver age of comics. Running low on ideas for story arcs due to the simultaneous airing of the Lois and Clark TV series, the writers at DC decided to kill off their hero in a massive publicity stunt. The resulting product garnered international attention to an extent that the character has never reached since. In essence, we, the general public, are responsible for Superman's death, as well as his subsequent rebirth, as our failure to pay proper attention to him in the form of buying comics led the writing crew to kill him as a means of getting our attention. It belongs to a division of fictional heroes that one could call public, fictional, franchise/anthology-based heroes. That is, a division of fictional heroes that belong to the general public and have ongoing stories told in chapters or waves. Because characters such as Superman exist for our entertainment in a capitalist environment, our attention to them is largely dictated through the statistics referencing how many of their products we have purchased or shown interest in. Essentially, we are responsible for shaping these heroes, as it is our devotion to them that decides whether their story continues on or if they are cancelled. Painfully similar to Superman's 1993 dilemma, DC's Batman was faced with a new villain in the form of Bane, just a few short months after Superman was killed. Though Batman was only paralyzed, and not killed, essentially the writer's intent was the same as in the case with Superman, to regain our interest. Tokusatsu or Tokushu Satsue, meaning special photography, refers to a subgenre of Japanese live-action or TV or film. The genre has spawned numerous enduring franchises, beginning with 1954's Godzilla. Godzilla was originally portrayed as an enigmatic, animalistic being of death and destruction. Over 50 years and 27 films, Godzilla has been changed and refined to suit his target audience. In the 60s and 70s, monster movies were out, and Yakuza and period movies were in, resulting in Godzilla being relegated to the position as an idol to small children. In the 80s, he was back to being menacing and evil, and contemporarily, he is being portrayed as a combination of all his former selves, all for the sake of appeasing an ever-changing audience. Another example of a tokusatsu franchise is Ultraman, a TV series that began in 1966 and has since produced 21 reiterations and reboots. Notable is the fact that Ultraman has barely changed in over 40 years. In fact, the only iteration that has ever changed the tone for the series, Ultraman Nexus, was met with failure in the ratings, as it was placed in the traditional Saturday morning time slot common to Ultraman Productions, and as a result, failed to appeal to kids with its darker tone. Despite this minor upset, Ultraman has since resumed its kid-friendly tone, and like every previous iteration, continues to include actors, effects, plot elements, and characters that were featured in the original 1966 program. Yet another long-running tokusatsu anthology is Kamen Rider. Created in 1973 as a dark and excessively violent comic by famed artist Ishinomori Shotaro, Kamen Rider was never meant for kids. Eventually, however, Toei Studios bought the rights to the character and, seeking to broaden his appeal, made a TV series holding the serious tone of the comics but with less violence and more child characters. Kamen Rider's evolution over the course of its 17 iterations has been similar to both Ultraman and Godzilla. Kamen Rider has always struggled to be both colorful and appealing to kids, but cerebral enough in story structure to attract teenagers as well. During the mid-80s and early 90s, Kamen Rider was presented as a gritty and violent hero, but ever since then the character has been awkwardly muscled back and forth between being a clown and a strong silent type. As a result, Kamen Rider has always played second fiddle to Ultraman, as the franchise has never had a strict tone in regards to tradition and iconography, leaving the audience forced to contend with a character that changes drastically from year to year. As it stands now, Kamen Rider has been wedged into a Saturday morning time slot with the Super Sentai series, or Power Rangers to you and me, thereby resigning Kamen Rider to playing the clown, at least until next year. The most powerful element that binds all of the previously mentioned icons better than anything else is tradition. When building an anthology or franchise, the Japanese tradition deals most with refinement and improvement more so than innovation or invention. The neat part about public anthology figures is that they belong to us, and thusly are largely shaped by us. The same applies to real-life public heroes as well. People are receptive to their environments, and as such, will mold themselves to serve a need if it is made apparent.